Hello! I've accumulated some new art supplies recently and I thought I'd try a bunch of them out today. I've got some paper, some pencils, and a few different sets of paints. So let's see what they're like. I'll see if I can make an artwork with them. I won't waste any more time. Let's get into it! I'll start off with this Michael Harding watercolour dot card set. There are only 4 colours on here. I really wish they had one with all of the colours. Maybe that will be a future video if they ever release one. But the colours we have here today are Vivid Blue, Scarlet Lake, Aqua Green, and Yellow Benzimidazzolone. I bought some Michael Harding watercolour tubes a couple of years ago now. Doesn't time fly? One of the 8 colours I chose is actually Scarlet Lake. I remember why. It is beautiful. The Vivid Blue's nice, but it is a mix of 4 pigments, so I don't know that I would include that in my set. Though it is a really pretty convenience colour. The Aqua Green is really lovely, super transparent, and that would definitely be one I'd consider. Although really it's just a mix of Phthalo Green and Phthalo Blue, so it would be easy to mix up if you had those 2 colours already. And last is Yellow Benzimidazzolone. This is also a really pretty colour, and it's one I'd consider as a nice lemony yellow. And here are the 4 swatches once they're dry. They're all very pretty colours. I think I like the Vivid Blue now that it's actually dried. It's such a lovely blue. But this was definitely not enough to warrant its own videos, which is why I'm including it today. I'll link Michael Harding's website down below so you can have a look at the full range of colours. Alright, let's see what's up next. This cute little set of handmade watercolours that Nick bought me when we were on our road trip. They all look very shiny and I have been dying to swatch these out. I just love shiny watercolour paints. They weren't exactly cheap though. Oh my gosh, handmade paints are always hideously expensive, aren't they? I'm just dropping a bit of water onto each one because metallic paints like this always need a bit of time to activate, and if you let the water sit on them for a couple of minutes, it just makes it so much easier to get the paint off. These are made by Chelsea Vens, and I'll link here in the description too. I thought I'd make little swatch cards to put inside the tin on both white and black papers because metallics always show up so differently depending on the surface colour. I'll swatch them simultaneously on white and black. It's quite hard to show the sparkle on the camera, but these are really lovely. They've got a lot of metallic sheen in them. And once the water had sat on there for a while, they were super easy to activate, and I was able to pick up a decent amount of pigment from them on my brush, although the gold looks a bit pale on the white. It shows up so much better on the black though, you can really see it shining there. I've considered trying to make my own shiny watercolours, but I imagine the materials themselves are really expensive. I wouldn't have a clue where to buy them either, so I'll just use other people's handmade paints. This blue one, it actually went quite green once it had activated. It's an interesting colour, this one. It has a blue-gold sheen on the black paper, and looks more aqua on the white. The next one is this very vibrant green. This is a really pretty colour in the set. And you can probably see all that mica pigment floating in the solution. I find them so fascinating. And I love adding shiny embellishments to paintings. You could paint with these on their own or add them in with regular watercolours. This next one is really gorgeous. It's like a deep amethyst colour with a significant amount of sparkle in it. I'd be interested to put this one up against Daniel Smith's amethyst watercolour, just to see if they look similar or not. I didn't think to do that in this video, did I? It doesn't show up so much on the black, but on the white it looks great. Now this last one is one of those holographic paints that has a rainbow of colours, and it looks a bit funny on white, but I think it looks better on the black, and you can really see how it's going to colour change when I start moving it in the light. I'll start off with the white ones now they're dry. Holding them up, you can really see the sparkle in there, especially on that green. It's absolutely gorgeous. But all of them I think are really pretty, and yes, they were expensive. I think it was $60-something just for this little set, so about $10 each. But thankfully they're really high quality, and wow, they look amazing on black. Even the purple now I'm seeing it has got a rainbow of sparkle colour in there. So I'm really thankful that Nick gave me this set. I love it a lot. If they weren't so expensive, I'd be curious to try some of the other sets out, but I'm more than happy just to have this little one. How amazing does that green look on the black? I think that's my favourite one out of all of the colours. Overall, I think it's a really nice set, and the paints themselves are high quality. They don't flake off the paper. So even though they're expensive, they do seem to be worth the money in that respect. But I'll let you decide that for yourself. Okay, coming up next, I've got this little set of Japanesque colours. These are pastel colours, and I think they're like a Gansai Tambi or maybe an ink, I'm not too sure. But they were on my Amazon wishlist, and I thought I'd buy them when they went on sale during the Prime Day one that happened a few months ago. I'll link these ones too. I'll just get this plastic off, it took me ages. I don't know why I'm so awkward with scissors when it comes to being on camera. But I wasn't sure if I was going to like this set because I find that pastel colours are very limited because they don't have dark values. But these ones look really nice and creamy, and I was so curious to try them out. I've already drawn up a little swatch card on a scrap piece of paper. It's watercolour paper, I think Fabriano Artistico. And I didn't cut it very straight, so I was just trimming it up a little bit here. I want to make sure it fits in the box nicely. I think that's better, yes. Anyway, let's get swatching. So as you probably know, I own all of the Kuretake paints that have come out. I'm pretty sure these ones are by the same company that does the Boku Undo set, that really dark inky one, which I also own. That other set is very nice, and so is this one. I was really pleasantly surprised with how good these paints are. They're wonderfully opaque, and even though they're not very dark because they are pastel shades, you can achieve somewhat of a value range by having thick opaque paint blending out into diluted paint, which is a lot lighter. I think the colours are really nice too. They do remind me of the manga or anime colour aesthetic, and I think as a set on its own it's a little bit limited, but if you add it with darker colours then it would become more useful, and the colours are just so nice. I really like it. The quality of the paints is lovely, and it reminds me of painting with gouache because of that level of opacity. So I'd been reluctant to buy this set because I didn't think it would be very useful, but I'm actually really glad I did, because I honestly think it's the nicest set of pastel shades I've ever tried on this channel. Usually I find something to complain about with them, but I cannot fault these paints at all. The price is quite reasonable as well, especially when they're on sale, and there seems to be a decent amount of paint in them, so I don't think I'm going to run out anytime soon. All of them activated in water very easily, and here's what they look like once they're dry. They are quite matte, but I do really like them. You can tell they've got white mixed in with them, but for what they are, I think it's a really great set. Maybe in a future video I should combine this set with the other darker Boku Undo set, and then I'd have a whole range of colours. But I'm going to move on to this tin of Caran d'Ache pencils. This was an impulse buy in a pen shop, mostly because the tin's so pretty. It comes with 10 water-soluble pencils and also a Fibrilo pen, which is also water-soluble. Inside was this piece of foam, but for some reason I cannot get the tin to shut again with it, so it's just going to have to come out of there. I think Caran d'Ache does quite a lot of these sorts of little tins. This looks like it's in collaboration with an artist. I really like the look of the brush on this Fibrilo pen. That's another reason why I ended up buying it. The pencils themselves are unfortunately not from their good ranges of watercolour pencils, such as the Museum Aquarels and the Supracolors. I don't know what these are. They don't have any names on them. All they have on them is the Caran d'Ache label and a brush indicating that they're water soluble. So I'm guessing these are their lowest grade pencils. We're going to see that shortly when I swatch them out. But I wasn't even sure which colours were in here, so I'll get them all out of here and I'll line them up so we can see them. It's so annoying when they don't have names on them, or numbers for that matter, so I ended up just naming the colours myself because they are in rainbow order once I get them sorted. There's one grey pencil and the rest are Roigabiv. Oh, and there's also a pink as well. Of all the things I'm showing in this video today, this is the one thing that I have the most buyer's remorse on. The packaging is fabulous, I like the pen, but the pencils are going to be pretty disappointing when I start swatching them out in a moment. Spoiler alert, by the way. But I've just got a little scrap of paper here, another Fabriano Artistico offcut. I have no idea what I was pointing to just then, but anyway, I've written all the names down and I'm going to swatch out the colours first. So firstly I'll colour them dry and then I'll paint them with some water. And you could probably already see that they aren't very pigmented. Quite shocking for Caran d'Ache because usually their pencils are astoundingly good. These have to be student range or maybe even ones that are aimed for children. The yellow is probably the brightest colour of all of them. I mean, they're not that bad, it's just that when it comes to Caran d'Ache I have a certain expectation, and also this tin wasn't exactly cheap either, so I think it was a bit of a rip-off because the pencils are just not as high a quality as I would expect. If they had included super colour pencils, then this would have been an awesome set. But I'm stuck with them now, so I guess I would use these more as sketching pencils. The grey's quite nice in the set, and the Fibrillo pen itself is actually decent, but later on in the video you'll see why I don't often use water-soluble ink pens. I'll activate everything with water first though, and see how well they dissolve out. Pretty average, maybe slightly better than average. I've used watercolour pencils that refuse to dissolve at all. These ones are pretty good. That red is actually quite bright when I added the water. But overall, as a set, they are much paler than I am used to when it comes to other Caran d'Ache watercolour pencils. The yellow's nice. I'd use these pencils for travel sketching, because then if I lost them or they got damaged, I wouldn't be as upset as I would be with losing supercolour pencils, for example. And they're light enough to carry around in a travel bag, and if you don't have access to water you can colour out the sketches and then use water later on, so they're quite useful for that. But some of the colours here are not quite dissolving out as much as I would like, but overall I can't complain too much with that. It's just that they're very light, especially when you start adding water to them. And the Fibrillo brush pen also dissolves out in water, although not quite as much as I was expecting. The pen had dried onto the paper though, so I'm testing again by applying the pen onto the paper and then immediately washing it with water, and you can see there's not much difference, so I don't know how I feel about this. Soluble pens can be quite fun for shading, but usually I just end up making a mess, so they're not my favourite things in the world. But here's everything once it's dried. I mean, the colours are okay, but they are just a bit too pale for my liking, and they're nowhere near as good as the Supracolour or Museum Aquarelle ranges. Oh, that Fibrillo brush has made such a smudgy mess. I find them so hard to control. But let me know in the comments if you like to use water-soluble pens. I clearly did not leave that to dry long enough. Dark blue and dark green also didn't dissolve out quite as well as the others. But here's everything that I've swatched so far. I managed to get some paper stuck onto that dot card, I don't know how, but I'd say this set of shiny paints is definitely my favourite product today, closely followed by those Japanesque pastel colours. I think that's a really lovely set too. But shiny things, how can I not look at them? The only thing I haven't tested so far today is a surface, and we have some paper here. This is by the company Art Gecko. It's a British company, and I found these in Western Australia. It says it's watercolour paper, it's 300 GSM, although I don't think it's cotton. And both of these pads of paper are exactly the same, so I'm just going to use the square one today. Opening it up, and the paper is quite smooth, but it's also got a little bit of a toothy texture, so it looks like it would be good for a lot of different mediums, including pens, pencils, and watercolour paints. The first page had a bit of a ding in it, so I'm going to the second page. I was going to use a graphite pencil, but then I thought I would use the Caran d'Ache pencils to sketch the picture in, because I don't know that I'm going to use them much more than that. They remind me a little bit of Prismacolor Kohl Erase pencils, and it's quite nice to draw in the colours that you're going to paint in so you don't get a graphite line. I was inspired by the witch on the front cover, so I found a picture online somewhere and I'm drawing my own version. Mostly purples and oranges, although I did end up using a few other colours. The sketch itself took me a little while because I'm not really used to drawing people that much, especially in this comic-y style, but it's fun to try out different techniques and draw things that are out of my comfort zone. It's a bit late for Halloween though. But coming up, I actually forgot to record the next part of this, and so I missed a whole bunch of footage of me painting at this picture. I had used the Japanesque colours for the most part, and now I'm using some of the Michael Harding ones to get some brighter colours, because I didn't have an orange, and I was able to mix one up with the red and yellow. Mostly I stuck with the pastel paints though, and they were really nice for this particular illustration or painting. I was trying to get some shadows on her face here. You can see what I mean, that it's a struggle to get dark values with pastel colours though. And because I've received comments in the past, yes, here in Australia we do pronounce it pastel and not pastel, as Americans do. It's just the way we say it. Well, it's the way I say it anyway. I think this is where I decided everything needed to be outlined in that black pen, but I did this a bit prematurely because I did want to add some more layers of colour. Of course, this pen is water soluble, so you can see what kind of mess I'm going to get into in a little while. I'd kind of forgotten about that because usually I will use waterproof ink to outline pictures, and then it doesn't matter because it won't reactivate with water. I didn't make too much of a mess, but it did start to blend in with my painting a little bit once I started adding on another layer. I really wanted to use the shiny paints, so a lot of this picture has ended up with those. There's a fine line between adding a little bit of sparkle and going completely overboard. I obliterated that line into the overboard category. I can't help myself with shiny things. And you can see how it's already sparkling in her hair. I think it's really pretty, and that amethyst colour was really useful for this particular painting. I tried to leave some areas free of sparkles, so I could also have that pastel colour showing in underneath, because I was trying to showcase as many supplies as possible. Although you can see the pencil has completely disappeared. That's okay, I didn't like those much anyway. And now for the background, I'm going in with that aqua green because I just thought that would be a nice contrast. And it was also an excuse to use the sparkly green over the top of it. And I also dripped in some of that holographic colour as well. I'm not sure what that orange bit is meant to be around her neck, so in the end I just painted over that part because I decided it wasn't working. And I just gently blended in the green with the purple down the bottom, so she's just kind of merging out of the paint in a magical witchy way. I honestly spent so much time on this painting, far more than I was anticipating, but I really like how all of the colours worked so well together, and I used pretty much all of the aqua green on this particular dot card. I have one more dot card in my stash, which I might have to use at another point. Maybe I'll just have to buy the aqua green because it turned out to be a really pretty colour. So I'm just adding a bit more paint here and there, and I completely forgotten about the pen at this point, so I made the huge mistake of painting on her face, and you can see the ink running on her eyes and hair. It just looks so bad. So I decided to go over everything again with that pen just to try and make the lines less fuzzy. This kind of worked, but I'm not super happy with it in that respect. I just wish I had a waterproof pen. The expression on the witch's face looks really suspicious as well, so I ended up calling her Suspicious Witch. I tried to fix up the eyes as best I could, but there's only so much I can do once that ink has spread. And of course, as I usually do, I pulled out a white pen just to add in a few little highlights and bring the whole piece together. This was a fun one. I enjoyed doing it, even if I did mess the face up a bit. I'd say live and learn, but you know me, I never learn. But it's finally time to finish up. I'll sign it, and here's the finished piece. Mistakes aside, I'm quite happy with it. And you can see all of that beautiful sparkle from those lovely paints. They were just so nice to work with. And I especially love how they look in the background as well. Because this painting took so long to do, it's the only artwork I managed to get done for this video. But I think I managed to use all of the supplies pretty well, and so I'm quite happy with that. You can see here I used pretty much all of that green. There's only a tiny little bit left on that swatch card. Overall, I'm really happy with the supplies I used today, especially the paint sets. Both the Japanese and the sparklies have ended up being really lovely, and I'm so glad I have them in my collection. The Caran d'Ache pencil tin set, not so much. I really like the tin, but the pencils themselves are quite disappointing, and I remember why I generally don't use water-soluble brush pens. Never mind, I'm sure I'll find a use for it in the future. The paper is actually really nice. Even though it's not cotton, it worked really well for watercolours and I didn't have any issues with it, so I'm hoping that future artworks will also work well on it. I haven't used the postcard paper yet. I'll add that to the pile of things I need to use. I'm glad I was able to show some of the new supplies that I've bought. I still have more that I haven't shown yet. One day I will get to those as well. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you liked this video, and let me know if I should make more videos like this just showcasing a bunch of supplies. The shiny ones are my favourite. So as always, if you enjoyed this video, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up, and you might like to click subscribe for more videos. I'll have a couple of other videos up here for you to watch. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you all again really soon in my next video. Swatch you later. Bye!